Shalom, shalom and welcome. Welcome to the channel, my brothers and sisters. If you're tuning in for the first time, my name is Symmanayah. If you are one who seeks to do the will of the Almighty Creator, He that is the beginning and the end, Yahuah, who manifests His word in the person of Yahusha, who sent His set-apart spirit in Yahusha's name. And I'm speaking of John 14:26. If these descriptors fit you, I consider you my brother, my sister, my family. This series, Rise of the Judges, is designed to take the sting out of the word judges. It's designed to let us look at judges and judgment with a welcoming perspective. In other words, it's to help us become better. It's to help perfect us as a set-apart family. And I pray, my brothers and sisters, that we're able to see if we are pursuing righteousness, that we should welcome judgment. Judgment may confirm and reaffirm that we have made the right decisions, just as it could bring about corrections when we stumble and fall. In this segment of Rise of the Judges, I want to bring up the title, Eating Packaging. Eating Packaging. You might say this is crazy, but let me ask you, brothers and sisters, what would you think of someone that went to a grocery store, bought a can of soup, a box of cereal or pasta or something that's in a box, and just slammed it on a plate or bowl and started eating at it? What would you think about that person? Yeah, I said that. What do you think about somebody that would just pick up a bag of chips and purchase it and just start biting into the bag? What would you think about that? Yeah, that's a rhetorical question, because most of us would think that person have a mental disorder or something is wrong. I submit to you and will present to you, that's what some of us are doing now in this set-apart walk. Don't even realize how crazy it is, or how, let me just say this, how it causes us to make mistakes, my brothers and sisters. A matter that is not funny. Some of us have gotten ensnared as a result of eating packaging. Beware, my brothers and sisters, of what we are spiritually eating. Let's unpack this segment. Come with me. And if you tune in for the first time, you'll see in this slide I have the addresses of verses talking about judgment. For there's a time to judge and a time not to judge. And I want this to be on every segment of Rise of the Judges to let people know I am aware of it. And if you are listening and not looking, I want to read those addresses off to you. Proverbs 31:9. Proverbs 31:9. Ezekiel 20 verse 4. Ezekiel 20 verse 4. Matthew 7, 1 through 9. Matthew chapter 7, 1 through 9. Luke chapter 6 verse 37. John 7:24. John 7:24. John 8:15 through 16, and 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 12 through 16. These are some verses that talk about judgment. Let us know there's a time to judge and a time when not to judge. And I want you to be aware of that, because some people will probably say, you ain't supposed to judge anybody, and they'll show you one verse that say don't judge. Unaware, unlearned, or maybe they've forgotten that there are times when we must judge. Yashar'al, Yashar'al, for end times to prove that promises of Abba Yahuah will be fulfilled, there will be some judging, one towards another in many ways, as it relates to the Spirit of Yahuah working in us one towards another, and us restoring one another when we stumble or fall or when corrections are needed. My brothers, individuals who study the scriptures discover the dietary laws. They even uncover how trees, vines, fruit, bread, and meat are used for set-apart instructions and examples. I invite you to see if we are instructed to eat packaging. I don't think we are. But think about it. Eating packaging. That's crazy, isn't it? Come with me as I prove a point, my brothers and sisters. Well, present a case. Now, whether it proves a point or not, you are the listener. That is up to you to decide. There are those who will take this message to be irrelevant to growing in maturity, while others will judge differently. I invite your patience as I unpack this message, my brothers and sisters. Yes, eating packages. Eating is a function where we expect and anticipate a result, both literally and spiritually. Would you agree? I'll present the case of how we are programmed and conditioned to be sometimes more attracted to packaging, more so than the contents. Come with me. Let's take a look, my brothers and sisters. Take a look at Matthew 23:12 through 14. Matthew 23:12 through 14 in the E-Sword version. It reads this: "And whoever exalts himself and shall be humbled, and whoever humbles himself shall be exalted. But woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you shut up the rain of the heavens before men. For you do not go in, nor do you allow those who are entering to go in. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you eat the widows' houses, and for a show make long prayers. Because of this you shall receive greater judgment." You shall. Now, my brothers and sisters, it says here, woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, in the 14th verse. I'm in the 23rd chapter of Matthew. It said, because you eat up widows' houses. Do you believe it's talking about literally eating up widows' houses? Clearly, it's speaking on spiritual matters that are manifested in wicked behaviors. Thus, I just want to give you an example of how the scriptures talk about eating things. Stay with me, Yashar'al. Goes on, Matthew 26 through 29, and it says, "And as they were eating, Yahuah took bread, having blessed, broke, and gave it to the taught ones, and said, 'Take, eat, this is my body.' And taking the cup and giving thanks, he gave it to them, saying, 'Drink from it, and all of you. Drink from it, all of you. For this is my blood, that is the renewed covenant, which is shed for many for the forgiveness of sins. But I say to you, I shall certainly not drink of this fruit of the vine from now on till that day when I drink it anew with you in the reign of my Father.'" Now, you think he really talking about chew on his arm or eat part of him? No, my brothers and sisters. Spiritual. There's more to examine, my brothers and sisters. I want to share some things what the scripture is talking about from a spiritual perspective, eating. And I'm going to share how, from a spiritual perspective, but in this case, from a wicked perspective, many among us are eating packaging. Come with me, and let's take a look at 1 Corinthians chapter 10. 1 Corinthians 10, 31 to 33. As it is written in the scripture, the E-Sword version. It is written, therefore, 1 Corinthians 10, 31 through 33. Therefore, whether you eat or drink, or whatever you do, do all to the esteem of the Almighty One. Cause no stumbling either to the Yehudim or to the Greek or to the assembly of the Almighty One. Cause no stumbling either to the Yehudim or to the Greek or to the assembly of the Almighty One. As I also please all men in all matters, not seeking my own advantage, but that of the many, that they might be saved. Stay with me. 1 Corinthians 11, 23 and 24. For I received from the Master that which I also delivered to you, that the Master Yahushua, in the night in which he was delivered up, took bread, and having given thanks, he broke it and said, Take, eat, this is my body, which is broken for you. Do this in remembrance of me. And it continues, 25th verse to the 27th. I'm in 1 Corinthians 11th chapter. In the same way also the cup after supper, saying, This cup is the renewed covenant of my blood. As often as you drink it, do this in remembrance of me. For as often as you eat this bread and drink this cup, this 26th verse, you proclaim the death of the Master until he comes. So that whoever shall eat this bread or drink this cup of the Master unworthily shall be guilty of the body and blood of the Master. Here the instruction is given to examine ourselves, to recognize how Yahushua is the bread of life, how his shed blood, his atonement is what brings about everlasting life, salvation. Let us begin to understand what is spiritually being taught to us or presented before us to use in instructions. 1 Corinthians 11, 28 and 29 goes on to say, But let a man examine himself, and so let him eat of the bread and drink of the cup. For the one who is eating and drinking unworthily eats and drinks judgment to himself, not discerning the body of the Master, that Master being Yahushua, the word of Yahuah. He goes on in the 30th verse through the 32nd. I'm in the 11th chapter of 1 Corinthians. Because of this, many are weak and sick among you, and many sleep. This is saying people who recognize what he explained and instructed us to do, who disregard of this, who fail to examine themselves, many stumble and fall. Many die in such conditions because they fail to examine themselves. It says, for if we were to examine ourselves, we would not be judged. In other words, if we examine ourselves according to him, the ways of the Most High, we will yield if we're hungry and thirsty and desire to follow after him and obedient to him. We will not be judged, for we are doing what is right. But when we are judged, we are disciplined by the Master, that we should not be condemned with the world. Discipline to bring about correction and refinement. My brothers and sisters, something that some people shun because of erroneous programming and mental conditioning, psychological manipulation. We tend to shun that discipline. Goes on, 33 to 34 says, so then, my brothers, when you come together to eat, wait for one another. And if anyone is hungry, let him eat at home, lest you come together for judgment. And the rest I shall set in order when I come. If you study, there's a process where he wants us to do what many call the Last Supper, to recognize him. And when he talked about the bread, they were literally eating bread, but he was telling them that was symbolic of his body being the bread of life. And by drinking the wine, symbolic of recognizing the shed blood, the atonement that was about to occur. My brothers and sisters, it is so important that we understand the literal and the spiritual, and why it's important. Take a moment and think about life as a set-apart child of Abba Yahuah. Pray and seek to discern what it is that influences our actions. I submit to you, we are influenced in many ways. Our eyes, our ears, our mouths, and sometimes major distractions that snare us away from set-apart obedience. We must be mindful of what is influencing our behavior, our character, our actions. I want to challenge each of us to begin asking those close to us, what draws you together? Consider having these discussions one-on-one and with different brothers and sisters that you fellowship with, whether it be in a community, a camp, a group. Have the discussion. Take about 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, and ask, what drew you to me or me to you? Or what drew us together? Or why are we together? How do we choose to be with one another? I submit to you, for some, it will be place of worship. I like the community. I like where this camp worship. I like where they meet. I like this home or the yard or farm or wherever the case may be. For some, it's attire. I like their uniforms. I like the way they dress. I like the way the leaders carry themselves in their attire. For some, it would be language. I wanted to learn more about the Hebrew language. For some, it would be structure. I like the titles captains and priests and sergeants, and deacons or bishops. I submit to you, my brothers and sisters, all of these are packaging. Packaging. I guarantee you that most of those we have that discussion with will mention one of those things, my brothers and sisters. Let me back up, go back to it for just a moment. I bet you, not bet you, forgive me. I strongly believe that many will mention place of worship, attire, language, and or structure. One of those, if not two or three of those. Oftentimes, many are drawn by what they see and don't make an attempt to really get to know that person, that fellowship, that group or community. And this is dangerous, my brothers and sisters. This is akin to buying packages and just tearing and eating them and consuming them without examining the contents, looking at the contents, smelling, tasting, feeling the contents. Take a look at James chapter 2, verse 1 through 3, my brothers and sisters. It says this, my brothers, do not hold the belief of our master. My brothers, do not hold the belief of our master, Yahushua Messiah, the master of esteem, with partiality. For if there should come one into your meeting place, a man with gold rings and splendid robe, and there should also come in a poor one dressed in rags, and you pay attention to the one wearing the splendid robe, and say to him, you sit here in a good place, and say to the poor one, you stand there or sit here by my feet. Partiality to the packaging. It goes on to say, have you not discriminated among yourselves and become judges with wicked thoughts? What did you think? That person that was all dressed nice is successful, it's more spiritual, more in tune with life than the poor? What do you think those wicked thoughts that made you want to treat that person with the packaging that pleased your eyes better than the poor? It goes on here. Listen, my brothers, my beloved brothers, has the Almighty One, it says Elohim here, has the Almighty One not chosen the poor of this world rich in belief and heirs of the reign which he promised to those who love him? But you have shown disrespect towards the poor man. Do not the rich oppress you and drag you into the courts? You see, that eating packages, that giving attention to packaging can be dangerous sometimes, my brothers and sisters. He goes on to say, do they not blaspheme that good name by which you are called? If you truly accomplish the sovereign law according to the scriptures, you shall love your neighbors as yourself. You do well. But if you show partiality, you commit sin, being found guilty by the Torah as transgressors. For whoever shall guard all the Torah and yet stumble in one point, he is guilty of all. Eating packaging. Yes, it sounds crazy title, but yet those actions are real. Those actions are real. My brothers, my sisters, my family. If we begin to place emphasis beyond the packaging and focus more on the content, improved worship will come. And focusing more on the contents from a spiritual perspective is asking questions, really getting to know one another, really getting to know our position of belief, really getting to know why we do the things that we do. I have witnessed many who fail to express their need to vet or examine all things as we are instructed. So many people think that for some reason that is not a subject that we should discuss much of. But vetting, examine the things that are before us is necessary. Nevertheless, my brothers and sisters, omitting steps and processes can lead to disappointment and regret. In other words, if we just jump and grab the package without any expectations, without learning how to open it, get into it, examine its contents. If we rush into things, we may find ourselves facing disappointment, my brothers and sisters. I share this scripture often, and I want to share it again with you, my brother and my sister. Remember, Philippians 1:9 through 11. Philippians 1:9 through 11, it says, "And this I pray you, that your love might extend more and more in knowledge and all discernment." Don't we want to grow in love? Don't we want to grow in knowledge and set apartness? Don't we want to be clear in recognizing the voice of the Spirit of Yahushua when he reveals things? He goes on to say, "For you to examine the matters that differ, in order to be sincere and not stumbling into the day of Messiah, being filled with the fruit of righteousness through Yahushua Messiah, to the esteem and praise of the Almighty One." It says through Yahushua Messiah. Who is Yahushua Messiah? Yahushua Messiah is the word of Yahuah. It is the spirit of Yahuah that was sent in Yahushua's name, as John 14:26 states. Be filled with his spirit so that we can discern whether something is different or not and get to the bottom of it. And not recklessly eating packaging, not knowing what's going on. How many of us have found ourselves with groups or walking around with people who we thought believed the same as we did, only later to see that they believe differently? I submit to you, in many communities, camps, and groups, large ones, even in small ones, sometimes there are cliques that act like they follow the belief of the leadership. But in secret, they have little cliques and say, well, I don't believe everything the pastor is saying. I don't believe everything the bishop is saying or the leader is saying. But they don't challenge. They don't yield to be as iron sharpen iron. They don't seek and pray what steps should be taken. They just eat at the packages because they like what they see, but they may not always like what they hear. Yashar'al. It is important to study and pray always, seeking to discern and understand every process directed by the word of Yahuah that comes in Yahusha's name? Do we purchase goods without expectations? Or what is an expectation of what is inside the packaging? A lot of times the pictures we look at, the graphic arts we look at, influence grabbing a product. Have we ever been disappointed with what was in the packaging? I've witnessed people say my purchase, whether it's with food or non-food, did not look like the packaging. I have also witnessed people join a fellowship group after time passes mistakenly realize that they were seduced by what they saw outwardly, not true set-apart teaching. You see, my brothers and sisters, end times are bringing about, and it has begun, intense moments. We should know who it is we're hanging out with, fellowshipping with. We should know the contents of what's inside of them. What do they believe? What is their position of belief? What are their expectations? What do they tend to do going forward? Let's visit Matthew 7:14 and 15. Matthew chapter 7, verse 14 and 15. It reads this, my brothers and sisters. Because the gate is narrow and the way is hard pressed, which leads to life, and there are few who find it. But beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are savage wolves. Sheep's clothing, is that packaging? Is it not letting us know that inwardly the contents is ravaging wolves? You see, Yashar'al, it would be wise to know that with every encounter we have, we face an inward man and an outward man. Let us seek to move beyond the packaging and look more towards the contents, lest we become severely disappointed. Do we have time to collect disappointments, my brothers and sisters? Is that what we want to do? Disappointment after disappointment? That brings heartache. Would you not agree? This set-apart life comes with challenges. Let us be mindful of 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 16. 2 Corinthians 4:16 says this, or should I say, it reads as this in the eSword. Therefore, we do not lose heart, but everyone, if our outward man is perishing, and the inward man is being renewed day by day. But even if our outward man is perishing, the inward man is being renewed day by day. There's a transformation going on. Beyond the packaging, there's something happening inside of you, me, of us. It is important to know that what is perishing versus what is being renewed. Otherwise, we just may find ourselves overtaken by spoilage. In other words, what we thought to be something good, we discover that it is not, to say the least, but wicked, if we go by only the packaging, what looks good. Yashar'al. I use the word eating packages to bring attention to what and how things sometimes influence us. When we eat, we anticipate getting full, it's nourishing our bodies, it's having an effect. And I use the term eating packages like if we grab hold of, start messing with and indulging ourselves with the packaging of a thing, we have anticipations and expectations. So should it be with us coming to know one another, coming to love one another, coming to know fully the desires of the Almighty Father. Yashar'al, I cannot say or stress this enough. Rise up, O set-apart family. Let us minimize mistakes caused by eating packages versus consuming what is good. Let us examine the contents and determine whether this is something we need to be close to and a part of or reject. Eating packaging. It's time to stop. It's time to rub the crumbs of cardboard packaging off the side of your face. It's time to take that plastic from fake packaging out of your mouth, out of our mouths. It's time to taste the contents that's edible, that's clean, that brings about a set-apart result. Yashar'al, oh Yashar'al, my brothers and sisters, judges. Judges will bring liberation from eating packaging. In other words, the set-apart judges before us, or those who experience set-apart insight to judge, will be able to warn, or at the very least inform a brother or sister what they're about to get into. Whether to touch that package, come close to that package, be with that package. Do not reject judges, my brothers and sisters. And do not reject your calling when you are called to step up and judge. Pray and make sure it is indeed the Spirit of the Almighty Father Yahuah, which comes in Yahusha's name, that help us to discern what is right and what is wrong, that guide us away from being deceived by mistakenly eating packages. Pray on this message, my brothers and sisters. And if it stirred your spirit, if it brought a perspective that you hadn't considered before, share, subscribe, like. There's much work to be done. There's a lot of details for building a set-apart nation into the unity that the Almighty Father desires it to be. Let's utilize this algorithm YouTube allows by subscribing, sharing. I thank you. If you listen to this from beginning to end, I salute your pursuit of set-apartness, and I pray that you receive something from this message. And I end by saying to you, my brother, my sister, my family, be encouraged. There is so much to learn, so much to receive. And in due season, we will all shout, hallelujah, shalom.